Abel stood on the balcony, the cool night air brushing past him. He let out a sigh, shaking his head in disbelief. Good grief, you never know what'll happen in your life, he muttered under his breath. Who would have predicted that I, the unparalleled magician from 200 years ago, would now be sneaking into girls' rooms? He chuckled softly at the absurdity of it all. His companion nodded beside him, lowering his voice. We're heading to the back stairs, right? Abel affirmed. Yeah, the destination is the west building, 3rd floor, where the girls are. There are 6 teachers on this trip, his friend continued. But I assume 2 are guarding the lobby, and 1 will be patrolling. We'll need to get through the lobby on the 1st floor to reach the west side. Abel scratched his head. They probably won't be in the front hall, though. The receptionist is usually there. Still, it's a gamble. He sighed again, contemplating the risk. Damn it, those teachers just have to ruin our fun. His friend grinned mischievously. Unforgivable. They're just jealous because they aren't popular. Especially Fidia-sensei. If only she didn't talk so much, she'd be beautiful. Abel rolled his eyes. What an inelegant conversation, though understandable for boys in puberty. He mused to himself, thinking about how experiences like these probably shaped people as they grew up. His thoughts were interrupted when his friend turned to him with a grin. Say, Abel, do you have a girlfriend? Caught off guard, Abel raised an eyebrow. A girlfriend? As in a lover? His friend laughed. Of course. What else would I mean? Abel thought for a moment. If I had to say, Lilith would be the closest thing. But our relationship, it's more like partners with shared goals. His friend's eyes widened. Lilith? Like a lover? Don't tell me. You've already climbed the stairway to adulthood with her? Absolutely not. Abel replied quickly, dodging the question. She's more like an old friend. His friend groaned. How envious. I'll definitely get closer to the girls tonight. He gestured toward the west building, excitement in his eyes. Let's go. Keep quiet or they'll spot you, Abel warned, as they quietly made their way toward the girls' dormitory. But their luck was running out. From the shadows, a voice spoke up. Fidia-sensei, be on the lookout for boys. They're up to something. Abel's heart sank as he heard Cantor-sensei's voice. That bastard is selling us out, his companion hissed. Damn it, Abel muttered, realizing their fun was coming to an end. He noticed Fidia-sensei approaching. What should we do? Panicked whispers filled the group as Fidia-sensei called out. Who's hiding over there? Come out. Abel sighed deeply. Good grief. I shouldn't be saving these guys. But since I'm here, he stepped forward, masking his presence with a bit of magic. Let's run before they see our faces. As they moved, Fidia-sensei was hot on their heels. You think you can get away? I'll discipline you thoroughly. One of Abel's friends panicked. It's the 3rd floor. We can't jump. Abel smirked. I can reduce the landing damage with strengthening magic. Let's go. They jumped, landing safely, and sprinted away into the night. Back in the shadows, Cantor-sensei shook his head. Looks like nobody was brave enough to jump. But still, he turned his attention back to Fidia. We need to head back to our posts. Meanwhile, Abel slipped away quietly, intending to return to his room. But before he could leave, a voice stopped him. What were you doing? Abel-sama. Abel froze. Lilith stepped into the moonlight, her eyes fixed on him. I didn't expect you to be the culprit. Abel forced a smile. I was simply fooling around out of curiosity. Lilith tilted her head, a knowing smile on her lips. You could have just said so if you wanted to meet me that badly. I've already made preparations for that. Her expression darkened slightly. Or, did you sneak into the west building to meet another girl? Abel shook his head quickly. No, I was just keeping my classmates company. Lilith's smile returned. I want to discuss something with you about Kronos. Suddenly, Abel's senses heightened. Something was watching them, cold and lifeless, like a regalia. Lilith noticed it too. Let's go somewhere else, she whispered. Yeah, Abel agreed. They moved quietly, the presence of the regalia looming over them. As they left, Lilith's words echoed in his mind. Don't worry, Abel-sama. I'll wait for you. I've already waited over 200 years after all. Abel's heart tightened. He knew who Lilith truly was. The daughter of the demon Lord of Dusk. A powerful figure, tied to his past and his future. He let out a breath, his mind swirling with the weight of his choices. Lilith, I'm sorry. The Kronos headquarters was in chaos. The assassins they had sent out had all been defeated. Frustration filled the air as one of the officers muttered angrily, "Damn that brat." Suddenly, a message arrived from Vice Captain Bruno and Canaria, two of the organization's most determined operatives. The note was brief but shocking. "I'm quitting," Bruno wrote. "I can't do it anymore," added Canaria. Their spirits had been utterly shattered. Despite not being the strongest among the group, they had been chosen for their burning ambition. Yet somehow, this boy had completely broken their will. Another officer, standing nearby, hesitated. "Vice Captain, should we continue with the plan? Should I ask for the captain's advice?" But before he could move, a voice rang out, clear and commanding. "No need." The officer looked around in confusion. Was that the captain's voice? But where did it come from? "There's only me and this guy here. I don't sense anyone else." The voice continued, "Stop the plan. The boy is non-hostile. I've confirmed he's perfectly harmless and can't become our enemy." The officer still couldn't shake his unease, wondering how his captain had made such an assessment without being present. "Perfectly clean," the voice echoed one last time, as if it was nothing more than routine business. In the same room stood Rio, the mysterious head of Kronos. She appeared to be a teenage girl, but records indicated that she had been managing the organization for decades. No one knew whether she was human, demon, or something else entirely. Kronos had seen 4 of its top members disappear in the last decade. Rumors suggested they had attempted to rebel against Rio. Defying her was akin to suicide. Without missing a beat, Rio casually took a bite of a dango and smiled. "Delicious." Meanwhile, the officer couldn't hide his growing suspicion. "I sometimes wonder whether this woman in front of me is an enemy of mankind, using us as mere pawns." Trying to shake off his concerns, the officer asked, "So, we're stopping our plans on capturing the boy?" "Yes," Rio replied with an unbothered expression. "I've discovered something else that concerns me." "Yes, the teacher of Arcelia? She's a demon, and a very strong one. It's too dangerous to let her roam free. We need to erase this woman for the safety of the world." The next day marked the second day of the school trip, and Abel, Ted, and the others were ready for a change of pace. "We're going to the archaic village today, right?" "I can't wait," Abel said, trying to shake off the worries of yesterday's assassination attempts. It seemed that Kronos wasn't watching him, at least for the moment. As they arrived at the village, the group marveled at the detailed replica of the ancient city of Amatsuchi from 100 years ago. Ted, always playful, announced, "I'll be a ninja this time." Abel, though slightly skeptical about the artificial nature of the village, decided it was better to enjoy it for what it was. "Let's take some photos over there," Yukari suggested. "When we get home, I'll reprint the photos and give them to everyone." "Thanks, Yukari," Abel responded gratefully. Then Yukari turned to Eliza. "Hey, Ili-chan, why don't you take a 2-shot with Abel?" Eliza blushed. "Hey," she stammered, caught off guard. "We can rent costumes first," Yukari encouraged. "Gee, good idea." Eliza agreed, still flustered. "Say, Abel," Eliza asked shyly, "I want to go to the costume rental shop next. Is it okay?" "Yeah, sure," Abel replied, curious to see the traditional costumes of Amatsuchi himself. As they strolled toward the costume shop, Abel thought, "This is weird. There's no sign of any assassins today, unlike yesterday. But I guess it's better if nothing happens." Just as he started to relax, Lilith Sensei, their teacher, suddenly tensed up. "Something with malicious intent is approaching," she warned. Abel's heart raced. It seemed like their peaceful trip was about to be disrupted once again. The group stood before a display of traditional costumes, marveling at the wide array of choices. Eliza, her eyes gleaming with excitement, couldn't decide. "What? Which one should I pick? There are so many costumes," she exclaimed, overwhelmed by the variety. Their guide smiled warmly. "Feel free to try anything you like." Yukari, ever the curious one, turned to Abel. "Which costumes will you choose, Abel?" Abel hesitated at first. "Me? I wasn't planning to choose one." But wait. He recalled his efforts the night before. trying to be more cooperative with his classmates. Though it had only been an attempt, the lesson wasn't lost on him. He realized there was no harm in joining in and embracing the experience. I'm going to find some outfits and try them. Oh, okay. Eliza smiled, relieved that he was joining them. I'll talk to you later, she added as she ran off to explore the racks. Abel sifted through the costumes. Now then, which one should I choose? After a few moments of indecision, he found a ninja outfit that caught his eye. As he stepped out in the attire, Yukari gasped, "Oh my, it looks good on you." Abel adjusted the costume. "It's lighter than I thought. This is exactly what you call a ninja." Ted, who had also chosen a costume, laughed. "I can feel the vibe of a top-notch assassin from you." "I'm not sure if that's a compliment," Abel muttered, but Ted just grinned. Moments later, Eliza and Yukari appeared in their own costumes. "Oh my, how pretty," Abel remarked, genuinely impressed. "You're like a real princess." Eliza blushed. "Oh, really?" Yukari, ever playful, suggested. "Why don't I take a picture of you two first?" Ted isn't finished changing yet. Abel hesitated. "Isn't it better to wait for everyone?" But Yukari insisted. It's the perfect chance to take a picture of Abel, the assassin, and Ili-chan, the princess. Despite the slight awkwardness, Abel and Eliza posed for the camera, and Yukari happily snapped away. "Thank you, Yukari," Eliza said with a soft smile, grateful for the photos. Just then, Ted emerged from the dressing room. "Sorry for the wait, everyone." His outfit was elaborate, and he proudly displayed a top-knot hairstyle. "I asked the clerk for a recommendation, and she suggested this Shogun costume. Apparently, I'm the most important person in the castle," he boasted. Abel smiled, not entirely sure if the hairstyle suited Ted. "It looks cool," he said diplomatically. After a few more pictures and some lighthearted banter, the group continued enjoying their day. Abel couldn't help but think to himself, "I didn't expect to be forced to wear so many costumes today, but it's been fun." He made a mental note to travel with the same group again on future trips. As the group moved through the village, Abel suddenly felt something strange, a sinister presence. They finally appeared, he thought. He sensed about a dozen enemies lurking in the shadows, their magic power dark and unfamiliar, definitely not human. Abel's instincts kicked in. "If possible, I want to deal with them away from my friends," he thought. Just then a raindrop fell on his hand. "Whoa, it's so cold," Yukari exclaimed, shivering. Abel quickly cast a rain protection spell to shield them from the sudden downpour. "Thanks for the magic, Abel," Yukari said, her gratitude warming him despite the situation. "Looks like we're in luck." "The bus is here," Ted chimed in, ready to escape the rain. But Abel's mind was elsewhere. "Sorry, I forgot something. Just go back without me," he said abruptly. The rain provided the perfect cover. No one would be coming for a while in this storm, which meant he could fight without worrying about his classmates. He stepped away from the group and whispered, "Come out. I know you're there." His suspicions were correct. The enemies appeared. Humanoid creatures made of mud controlled by some unknown magic. They're fragile but can regenerate. I'll need to find the magician controlling them. As Abel began to fight, his thoughts raced. Material hardening is ineffective against them. Whoever is controlling these creatures is skilled. Just then, a voice rang out from the shadows. "Bravo, truly bravo. You are seriously amazing, Abel-kun." Abel turned to see a figure approaching. "As expected of someone who has defeated my subordinates," the man continued. Abel narrowed his eyes. "If I remember correctly, he's the vice captain of Kronos." The vice captain smiled darkly. "I hope you're ready, Abel. What will you do against the ability of the vice captain of Kronos?" Abel stood firm as the vice captain of Kronos stepped forward, his presence dark and imposing. "It's also the role of the boss to clean up after their subordinates' incompetence," the man muttered, a cruel smile curling at the edge of his lips. "I hope you're ready for this." Without another word, the vice captain raised his hand, summoning a powerful magic tool. "Taste this, Kronos' special regalia, 9-ball." Abel's eyes narrowed as he recognized the weapon. This must be Emerson's custom-made magic tool that was mentioned before. The quality is nothing like those mass-produced ones. The orbs of energy shot toward him with incredible speed, but Abel moved just in time, dodging the first attack. The vice captain's grin widened. So you can dodge that. How about this? He raised his hand again, and a new wave of magic burst forward. Receive heaven's judgment. SpaceX. In response, Abel conjured a thick mud wall, halting the attack. Good call, the vice captain noted unfazed. However, the mud is also my ally. Abel realized quickly what he meant. This man, Aaron, he's a green-eyed magician, skilled in wind attributes, Abel thought. Meanwhile, the mud dolls are magic created by a black-eyed magician. Someone else must be controlling them. Abel could feel that something was off. The caster must be a high-level magician to control so many life-size dolls remotely. But something's wrong. Yesterday, the assassin came at me with clear murderous intent. Yet, I can't sense any intent from this guy. He's just stalling me. As Abel dodged another attack, frustration flashed in the vice captain's eyes. Huh, I didn't expect you to stop my attack so easily, he said, his voice laced with amusement. Then, abruptly, his expression darkened. Answer me. What's your aim? You've been targeting me persistently, yet today, you're following someone's orders. Abel remained silent, trying to figure out the man's motives. The vice captain scoffed. That should be my line, Abel Cohen. Who are you really? Where and how did you gain such power? What are you trying to accomplish with it? Abel frowned. Good grief, he thought, irritated. He's responded to my question with another question. What a troublesome guy. Abel clenched his fists. If you won't answer, I'll get the answer directly from your brain. In a blink, the vice captain disappeared from sight. Abel's senses heightened. He wasn't gone. He was above. Abel leapt to avoid the sudden strike, narrowly dodging the next wave of the 9-ball attack. The vice captain's confidence began to waver. He laughed, though it was shaky, more forced than before. I got him. He's getting exhausted from dodging my 9-ball and fighting the mud dolls at the same time. His laugh echoed louder. I can win this. I can win. But Abel, despite the pressure, kept his composure. He had already analyzed the situation. He appears to be non-hostile, Abel thought, assessing his opponent. He's not an immediate threat, just stalling for time. Meanwhile, the vice captain's arrogance flared. There's no way this brat is non-hostile, he shouted to himself. He's broken the judgment sword and manipulated our magic dolls. He's caused enormous damage to our company. His rage bubbled over, and he aimed his next attack straight at Abel. I need to make him realize what he's up against. The vice captain's loud, manic laughter echoed in the stormy weather. Gasping for breath, the vice captain watched in disbelief as Abel's form slowly solidified in front of him. An unforeseen sight. The vice captain's eyes widened as another figure emerged from the shadows. What? Why are there two of you? What's the meaning of this? Abel's expression remained calm, his voice steady as he replied, It was illusion magic. He looked down at the vice captain. Did you have a good dream, vice captain? The vice captain struggled to move, but his body was completely immobilized by Abel's magic. Abel's cold voice rang out. Now tell me, what's your aim? When the vice captain refused to answer, Abel raised his hand, the air around him crackling with power. If you don't talk, Abel's voice turned menacing. Where should I strike next? Your leg. Cornered and realizing his defeat, the vice captain clenched his jaw. Surrender. My mission was only to stall you. Abel paused, intrigued. Stall me? Why? The vice captain's voice trembled as he revealed the truth. Your companion, Lilith? Our captain was wary of her. Abel's eyes narrowed, understanding dawning on him. I see. So your captain was the one behind the manipulation of these mud dolls. Their movements are slower now. I take it she's already found Lilith. His gaze sharpened as he leaned closer. Now, let me ask you something. Why are you working for a demon? Abel took a deep breath. Because I've come to the conclusion that it's fine to believe Lilith. The vice captain scoffed. You think it's fine to trust a demon? How foolish of you. He smirked, stepping closer. All right, here's my thanks for sharing your information. His hand crackled with dark energy, and before Abel could react, he was consumed by a powerful wave of illusion magic. As the magic took hold, Abel's mind was plunged into memories he had long tried to forget. To think I'd say such words, he muttered to himself. Before I reincarnated, My life was full of betrayals. The haunting memories of his mother's cruel words echoed in his head. Don't ever call me mother. You're a wretched monster. Her rejection pierced him like a dagger. The first betrayal. He remembered being cast out, wandering in the freezing cold on the verge of death. It was then he met Garius-sensei, the magician who saved him. From today on, you're my son, Garius had said. Abel had thought he finally found someone who cared. But even Garius had betrayed him in the end. Sacrifices have to be made for the sake of developing magic. Abel, Garius had told him coldly, entranced by his obsession with human transmutation magic. Another betrayal. Abel remembered standing over his former mentor, heart heavy with the pain of betrayal. Goodbye, Sensei, he had whispered before delivering the final blow. The memories rushed through his mind as the illusion magic tightened its grip. He had met others after that, Maria, Daytona, and joined Chaos Raid, only to be betrayed again by his senior and forced to part with his closest ally, Nameless. Betrayal after betrayal. But then there was Lilith. The day he met Lilith was etched in his mind. She had been a trembling little girl with amber eyes, so full of fear. She reminded him of his younger self, and he had taken her under his wing, teaching her magic and the rules of the human world, all while trying to find a safe place for her. But even after all that, Abel had been cast out again, this time by his comrades. I'm sorry, Abel. Would you leave our party? They had said. With nowhere left to go, he had used his knowledge of reincarnation magic to escape 200 years into the future, leaving Lilith behind without a word. She had waited 200 years for him. In all the betrayals that filled his life, Lilith had been the only one who never betrayed him. And now, Abel knew in his heart that it was okay to believe in her. Snapping back to the present, Abel gritted his teeth as the illusion magic faded, the vice captain's voice breaking through. It's about time I give my answer to her, Abel thought, clenching his fists. And Abel, weakened and defeated, could only think of Lilith as the storm closed in. Lilith stood poised, ready to retaliate. She scanned the darkened skies and the ominous atmosphere swirling around her. If it's here, I can fight without involving the students, she thought, steeling her resolve. She felt the weight of the magic lingering in the rain, a sensation she hadn't encountered in 200 years, stirring up memories of a day that had changed everything. Damn you, human! The voice echoed in her mind, rage bubbling to the surface. She gritted her teeth as she sensed a powerful presence nearby. Gua! The laughter rang out, taunting her. There's a lovely girl here who's still alive. Don't worry, there's nothing to be scared of. I'm your ally, the hero of Ash. The mention of the white-haired figure piqued her interest. That white hair, he's the demon killer my father talked about. It was amusing, she thought, that a demon would deliberately come to this place to protect humans. What a joke. You're from Kronos, aren't you? What business do you have with me? Lilith called out, her voice steady despite the tension. The enemy stepped forward, confidence radiating from them. I'll keep it brief. I want you to disappear. My master is angry. Your existence is corrupting him. Lilith shook her head defiantly. Refuse. Our relationship is not for strangers to interfere. The enemy's expression twisted in disdain. What a terrible thing to say. Don't you know that I have known him longer than you? The disdainful tone made it clear that this being was no ordinary foe. As expected of the daughter of the demon Lord of Dusk, Lilith thought, sizing up her opponent. Such monstrous physical ability. You're the first human who dares to challenge me despite knowing my identity. Run while I still let you. I'm not as kind as Abel-sama. The tension escalated, and with a feral smile, the enemy taunted her. I'll kill you for sure. Interesting. Please kill me if you can. A fierce clash ensued. Crack! Lilith winced at the blow that landed on her, realizing just how powerful this adversary was. That hurts. I felt that one. You aren't human. The same goes for you, the enemy retorted, their voice sharp and accusatory. Don't say that I'm unfair. This woman's magic is very sinister, just like Kane's. It's wearing me out. She's neither human nor demon. What is she? As they continued to fight, Lilith noticed the enemy's movements becoming sluggish. It hardened for a brief moment. She pondered the implications, her mind racing. A black-eyed magician specialized in manipulation and enhancement of substances. She's quite good. With newfound determination, she declared, "There, I've caught you. That was easy. Now, reveal your true form to me, O Witch of the Dusk." The enemy hesitated, their confidence flickering. "But if I revealed my demon form in this human form, with my power suppressed, I've no chance of winning. Then what is your aim?" Lilith pressed, the intensity of their standoff electrifying the air between them. "If you want to erase me, you could just strangle me to death." The enemy's voice dripped with venom as they replied, "I want to peel your beautiful skin that has seduced him and expose your hideous true form. And I want him to see you in your hideous form. Only then, I'll erase you." Lilith felt the weight of their words. "I'm sure he'll despair once he sees it. He only keeps you by his side because he likes your face and body. After all, he doesn't have any other feelings towards you. He's not capable of loving." Just then, a flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating the dark clouds, and Lilith braced herself, sensing that the final confrontation was at hand. "What does it mean?" Abel followed the flow of magic that manipulated the mud dolls, and it led him here. There was no doubt about it. The magician was nearby. The air was thick with a disturbing atmosphere. Is Lilith all right? What will become of her safety? Abel wondered, his senses heightened. The concentration of magic around the area was on another level. It had to be the magic of the Kronos captain. Even after 200 years, Abel had never encountered someone with such evil magic power. He whispered, "Lilith." Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed, "Abel-san, a long time no see. I've been wanting to meet you, Abel-senpai." It was Aine, a black-eyed magician whom Abel had met 200 years ago during the Chaos Raid. Her abilities were among the best, and she had supported their party after the organization's destruction. Abel had been expelled from the party after they defeated the Demon Lord, and since then he knew nothing of how Aine lived. But somehow, like him, she had found a way to survive through time. "You feel so different since I last saw you," Abel said cautiously. "Women have many faces," Aine replied slyly. "Just like that monster. Since we used to be friends, I'll let you choose. How do you want to die?" Abel wasn't intimidated. "No way, I don't want to die just yet. You're simply being manipulated by that woman. She's the daughter of the Demon Lord who brought humanity to crisis. If we let her live, she'll become the next Demon Lord and seek revenge on us. If you're going to get in my way," Aine sneered, "I'll make you listen by force." "Don't be overconfident," Abel shot back. "You've never beaten me in a fight. Do you think I'm still the same as before?" Aine taunted as she unleashed her Shikigami magic. Poison bees swarmed the air. It was a form of magic Abel had never seen before, one that originated from the Eastern country. "What are you trying to accomplish with those?" Abel asked, unimpressed. "I don't have time to play games with you." "You've heard a maiden's face, Abel-senpai. You're so cruel," Aine teased. "But as expected of you, even in your childlike form, you're still strong." Her tone darkened. "Now I'm going to give you a quiz. Can you tell which one is the real me?" "How ridiculous," Abel muttered. "The answer is, all of them are fake. Isn't that right?" He looked at her. "You were never here from the start. The magic coming from you felt artificial. No living being could mask their irregularities so perfectly. And the deciding factor was blood. You got scratched, but no blood came out." Aine laughed softly. "Looks like I underestimated you, senpai. Goodbye for now. I look forward to seeing you again." And with that, she vanished. Abel stood still, his thoughts racing. So Aine is still alive, but to think she's become my enemy. His expression darkened as he realized just how troublesome things had become. Amidst the pouring rain, Abel noticed Lilith standing there, but something felt off. Her voice was soft yet pained. "Please don't come near me, Abel," she whispered. "Lilith," Abel called out, concerned. "I don't want you to see this form." Abel looked closer and realized she was too exhausted to maintain her human form. "You must be disappointed, right?" Lilith continued, her voice cracking. "This is my original form. The real me is ugly and filthy. There's no way anyone could love me like this. Abel remained silent, sensing the pain behind her words. 200 years ago, Lilith went on. After we parted, I started living among humans. At first it went well, but one day, people saw a part of my true form. They called me a monster. Her voice grew heavy with sadness. Since then, I decided I wouldn't show this form to anyone, especially not to you, Abel-sama. Yet, how stupid, Abel interrupted. Did you really think I would care about something like that? Lilith was stunned. What's important, Abel continued, is the innate characteristics, the person you are on the inside. I don't believe that, Lilith said, shaking her head. I ain't said. You despair once you saw my true form. That you only like me for my human appearance. She said you couldn't love anyone. Abel's expression darkened. She's right. I'm not capable of loving anyone. My life has been full of betrayals, and whenever I trusted people, I got hurt. He paused. But you, Lilith, you didn't betray me. You believed in me. Before I knew it, I trusted you wholeheartedly. Lilith's eyes widened. Abel-sama, but I hid this form from you. I deceived you. I'm not someone you should trust. It's best to reassure her first, Abel thought to himself. The rain continued to pour, and for a moment, Abel felt as if he had experienced this scene before. I'm not fond of the rain. It's scary, Lilith admitted softly. What's wrong? Abel asked, his tone shifting gently. The rain reminds me of that day, Lilith said quietly, referring to the day of the demon lord's defeat. Don't worry, Abel said softly. There's nothing to fear. I'm your ally. After all, he raised his hand. If you're scared of the rain, Lilith looked at him, puzzled. I'll erase it for you. Gungnir, Abel whispered, casting magic to clear the storm. The rain stopped. Have you calmed down? He asked, his gaze steady. Lilith, overwhelmed, could only nod. Listen to me, Lilith, Abel said. I love you. You didn't disappoint me. And it's not true that no one could love you in your true form. Do you understand? Lilith's heart skipped a beat. Abel-sama, I love you too, Abel-sama, she cried, rushing into his arms as they embraced. Meanwhile, an hour earlier in Astra Archipelago, Cain stood tall, surveying the land he had ruled for centuries. When I heard he's been ruling this land for hundreds of years, I expected him to be much stronger. To think this weakling dares to call himself the Demon Lord. How laughable. Cain-sama, a voice called out. He turned to see Iane approaching swiftly. It's you, Iane? What do you have to report? She bowed slightly. I have news. Abel-senpai is alive. Cain's eyes widened. I see. So he really is alive? Abel-senpai, my savior, my magic teacher, my aspiration. His voice trailed off before hardening again. Yet, Iane stepped forward, her voice trembling. Please stop. I'm going to bring her to a safe place. That demon lord's daughter has corrupted him. I'll get him back from that witch. Cain's gaze turned cold. It's going to be busy from here on out. Under the vast sky, filled with stars, Abel and Lilith stood side by side, the tension between them slowly easing. Have you calmed down? Abel asked softly, his voice gentle yet firm. Yes, Lilith responded quietly, still feeling a bit vulnerable. You should go back first. I'll return after a moment. Abel nodded, his usual calmness returning. Okay, Lilith. Thank you for everything. With a soft smile, Lilith watched him walk away before disappearing into the night. She sighed, relieved yet still filled with uncertainty. Back at the camp, Teach, welcome back. Ted and the others greeted Abel with enthusiasm. We were worried about you. Ted's voice was louder than the rest. Yeah, sorry about that, Abel replied, smiling slightly. Ted eyed him curiously. Teach, did something good happen? You seem brighter than usual. Abel laughed inwardly, thinking to himself. It might be because a weight was lifted from my mind after talking to Lilith. But I should keep our relationship a secret for now. Ted, as usual, jumped to conclusions. I get it. You want to get something you forgot, right? You must have found it. I'm glad for you. Abel chuckled, appreciating Ted's innocence. Looks like I don't have to worry about Ted finding out about our relationship, he thought. By the way, Teach, what did you forget? Ted asked, still eager. Nothing, Abel replied calmly. It was just my imagination. Eh, you sure are clumsy at times, Teach. Ted teased, causing the group to laugh. With that, the second day of the school trip came to an end, and the final day passed peacefully, with no appearance of Kronos' pursuers. Soon, everyone returned to their everyday lives. As Abel stood by the gates of the academy, he heard a familiar voice call out, Abel, long time no see, Abel. I missed you. Before Noel could get too close, another voice cut through the air. Noel, get away from him. It was Eliza, watching from a distance. Abel smiled at Noel's enthusiasm. How was the school trip? She asked, ignoring Eliza's warning. It was good. I learned a lot about other countries' cultures firsthand, Abel replied, his tone calm. You should have come, Noel. Even if you didn't need to participate to advance, it felt like a waste for you to skip it. Abel reached into his bag and pulled out a small package. Here, this is for you. A souvenir from Amatsuchi. I tried it, and it was delicious. Noel blushed as she took the gift. It's so pretty, Abel said, smiling. Thank you, Noel. Nearby, Eliza observed the scene with a slight frown. I'm so jealous she got a souvenir from Abel, she thought to herself, though she kept quiet. Ted, always eager, approached Abel next. Teach, I also got you something. He handed Abel a small trinket. I don't need this, Abel said, dismissing it with a playful smile. Just then, another figure approached Abel. Hey, you look even more lively today, a familiar voice said. Abel turned to see a man with a mysterious aura. What is it you wonder? He asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. How was the school trip? He asked. Abel, thanks to you, it wasn't a boring one. Emerson raised an eyebrow. Just to let you know, I wasn't involved this time, he said flatly. Everything was the work of Captain and Vice Captain of Kronos. He gazed darkened. Kronos Captain? Her true identity was Iane, who was my friend 200 years ago. Who is that woman? Abel asked cautiously. Who knows? There's no one who completely understands her. She's been the top brass of Kronos for more than a decade. That's all I know. Abel's curiosity piqued. Aren't you curious? Good question, he said with a sly smile. Well, I'm more interested in you than her, Abel-kun. If you don't have any useful information, this conversation is over, Abel replied, his tone growing cold. How cold of you, she teased, his smile lingering. But still, you managed to drive off Kronos executives and even the vice captain, Irin. As expected of you, Abel-kun. He hesitated for a moment before his smile returned, this time more calculated. I guess I should really reconsider cooperating with him. In the heart of autumn, when the air was crisp and the leaves turned shades of gold, a saying lingered in the minds of many. Autumn is the season for reading. Book lovers would flock to large bookstores, but I preferred a different kind of adventure. My heart was drawn to a quaint antiquarian bookstore nestled at the end of a winding street. A hidden gem I had recently discovered. The dusty sign read, The History of Regalia, How to Make Regalia, Advanced Edition. I want to buy this, I said to the storekeeper, a kind old man who had always welcomed me with open arms. Thank you as always, he replied, his eyes twinkling. Thank you as well, young boy. I frequented this store 2 or 3 times a week, not only for the unique books, but also for the atmosphere that reminded me of another time. It echoed memories from 200 years ago when I would visit a similar bookstore, exchanging dog-walking duties for the chance to read in its warm embrace. But today, as I browsed the shelves, I overheard a troubling conversation. Oh, right, I feel like I should tell you this, the storekeeper said, his tone heavy. I'm thinking of closing this store next month. Why? I asked, my heart sinking. Is it because of the lack of customers? Yes, he sighed. Although the business was tough to begin with, something new has come along. He held up a small device, introduced to him by an agent. Apparently, people can order any kind of book with this regalia. I frowned, understanding the implications. So, it's a system where customers can choose the books they want, and they'll be delivered to the bookstore? That's right, he confirmed, his gaze darkening. And it seems it also includes old books. We had been increasing our patrons by selling specialized books that other stores didn't have, but now, my mind raced as I realized how the existence of such a system would threaten stores like this one. Customers would surely flock to the convenience of larger retailers. What will happen to all the books here when you close the store? I asked. I'm going to have a trader take them all away, he replied. Let me know if there are any books you want. I'll keep them aside. I nodded, gratitude filling me. Thank you for your consideration. As I pondered the impending closure, my thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. Abel, Noel exclaimed, rushing toward me. I'm so happy to see you. Is everything all right? You look kind of down. Yeah, I sighed. It seems like this store will be closing next month. I recalled how she had been the one to tell me about this hidden place. Oh, really? I want to buy all the precious books before the store closes, but her eyes shone with concern. You need money? I asked. Yes, but unfortunately, right now I'm just a student being taken care of by Lilith. If I ask her, she'll probably lend me enough money to buy all the books, but my head spun at the thought. What do you mean? Here, she said, pulling out a handful of gold coins. With this amount, you could probably buy the whole store. I shook my head, refusing. I can't just take this large amount of money. No, I'm not giving it for free. This is a trade. I'll give you the money, but in exchange, you will give me your love. How about it? There's no way such a trade would work, I replied, my cheeks warming. I'm sorry, but I can't take your money. I'll try to earn some myself. That's too bad, she said, a hint of disappointment in her voice. Do you have any plans? Not really, I admitted. But if I think long enough, I'm sure some ideas will eventually pop out. After all, 200 years ago, good magicians were always in demand. I'm sure I can earn enough money to pay for those precious books. Then at least let me help you. I want to be of use to you, Abel, Noel insisted. Well, it should be fine if you're only helping, I said, relieved. Really? I'll do my best. Will you cheer me on? Her enthusiasm reminded me of my days with Noel's ancestor, Daytona, the water hero. By the way, do you have any good plans? I asked. I'll do my best to think of a plan, she replied, determination sparkling in her eyes. Though, so far I couldn't see a fragment of it. The next day, after school, Ted approached me with an understanding nod. I see. So that's why you came to me. Man, despite always looking so collected, you're secretly looking forward to it. Aren't you, Teach? What are you talking about? I asked, confused. Your idea of fundraising wasn't to prepare for the school festival, he said, pointing toward the bulletin board filled with colorful posters. That's a different matter, I said, waving him off. You're looking for an idea to make some money, right? Ted continued, his excitement palpable. With your prowess as a magician, I think it's faster to go to the Quest bulletin board than to work part-time, he exclaimed. Quest bulletin board? I echoed, realization dawning on me. It was a system that allowed students of Arsulia Magic Academy to accept job requests from outside the school. I heard that the bulletin board is in the basement of the school. Come on, Teach. Let's have a look, Ted urged, leading the way. As we made our way through the halls, a spark of hope ignited within me. Perhaps this was the opportunity one needed to save the bookstore and its precious collection of books. In the bustling halls of Arsulia Magic Academy, students were abuzz with excitement as the school festival approached. Among them, Abel and his student, Ted, navigated the crowd, their destination clear in mind, the Quest bulletin board. I think the Quest bulletin board is ahead, Ted said, his eyes scanning the throng of students. There are so many people here. It must be because everyone is trying to earn money for the festival, Abel replied, pushing forward through the crowd. Just as they reached the board, a voice called out from behind. Excuse me, please make way. A group of students jostled past, revealing the many requests pinned to the board. Ted squinted at a flyer. Find a lost cat? Reward 8,000. Colonel, my pet cat, Tama, is missing. I'll give a reward to whoever finds her. Most of these rewards are quite low, Abel observed, studying the next request. Cleaning the riverbed? Only 7,000 call? 200 years ago, requests were mostly for demon beast extermination. Looks like times have changed. Abel frowned. With these low rewards, even if I took every quest, I still wouldn't have enough to buy the books I want before the store closes. This is troubling. Suddenly, a new request appeared on the board, causing a ripple of interest among the crowd. A new request just came in. For those who want to do this job, please take this form to the counter. Hey, why don't you try taking this quest? Ted suggested. Are you kidding me? Look at the client's name, Abel said, shaking his head. Even if the reward is high, I'm not getting involved with that person. Ted glanced at the request. Organizing warehouse. Reward 150,000 call? Why is it so high? His eyebrows raised in disbelief. Abel scrutinized the request. It's a lot of money, but it seems suspicious. This client has a bad reputation among students, and Noel seems to dislike him too. Let's cut to the chase. Can you tell me the details of the job? Abel decided, taking the form to the counter. As the owner, Edgar, introduced himself, Abel could sense the unease in the air. I want you to clean the warehouse. If you can make it clean, I'll give you the promised reward. Is it really just that? Ted questioned, skeptical of the generous offer. Yes, I swear I'm not lying. Edgar insisted. The school will scold me if I try to gather people by giving out false information. Let's get to work then, Abel said, motioning for the others to follow. As they arrived at the warehouse, it looked unremarkable. There are no traps either, Abel noted. We should be fine. But then, the door slammed shut behind them. What are you doing? Ted exclaimed as they realized they were locked inside. Don't worry. I'll unlock it when the sun has set. Just work properly. Edgar's laughter echoed as he walked away, leaving them trapped. What should we do, Teach? Ted panicked. Well, we could break the lock with magic and get out of here, but if we want the reward, we need to deal with them, Abel replied cryptically. Who are them? Ted asked, confused. Suddenly, a small creature emerged from the shadows. Mock Q, it squeaked. Abel's face hardened. It's a bad rat. They're mischievous little demon beasts usually found in forest areas, but this one looks larger than normal. What he meant by cleaning the warehouse is to eliminate that rat, right? Ted realized. Most likely, Abel confirmed, glancing at the rat. Burning bullet, Ted shouted, unleashing a fire spell, but Abel quickly intercepted. Stop. Our job is to clean the warehouse, and fire magic is prohibited here. I'm not as skilled as you, Teach. I can only use my magic at less than 10%. Ted protested. Don't worry, I'll handle it, Noel chimed in, stepping forward. Ice arrow. The small ice arrow expertly avoided the goods around them. How skilled, Abel admired. You're adjusting your strength well. Chew, chew, the rat taunted, undeterred. This is a good opportunity for you two to train, Abel declared. Ted, focus on training your other magic attributes without damaging the goods. Noel, improve your power adjustment and accuracy. As Ted prepared himself, he could feel the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. I want to be of use to you, Teach, he exclaimed, determination gleaming in his eyes. The adventure had only just begun, and as they faced the challenges ahead, Ted and Noel were ready to prove their worth and perhaps earn that hefty reward after all.